So let me take a moment to explain ARIS, a piece of software that we've been working on here in Madison for about 2 years now, as part of a continued research project of the Games Learning and Society group. ARIS is really one of the answers to the question, what kind of mobile learning activities are interesting? And we're coming out of a history of game mechanics and storytelling, so we decided to play around with some of those ideas and build them into a tool so that teachers, designers, artists, students themselves can create stories that are embedded into spaces. Let me give you an example of one of these stories. It's a situated documentary, and it's a game called Dow Day. Dow Day takes place at the UW-Madison campus here right in the middle of Library Mall. At least that's where it begins. Using ARIS, the player or student would select this game and then be faced with a number of quests and challenges. And here's the quest screen just for you to look at. In this situation, we see that we are laying a background. We're now in October 1967, and we're also giving the player a role. You're a reporter working for the Capitol Times, and your job is to investigate the protests that are taking place. We also give them a task to get them started. Go see your editor. So as they've got this quest screen open, they can switch to the GPS screen by flipping that little button at the bottom. And now we show them where the editor is at in relationship to them. And we can see that it's nearby, so we start walking over there. So when we get to this other place on the Library Mall, the editor appears, and ARIS vibrates the device and plays a little tone. And now we have a virtual character that's standing in front of us at this place, and it's the editor for the newspaper. The editor goes on to explain a little bit of what's happening, that a number of students are protesting and they want the scoop. They want to find out what's happening. Who are the different players and what are their opinions and what's happening here. So the editor gives you a couple hints of places you might start. There's some marchers apparently that are gathering. There's a state legislator, and there's a representative of the Dow Chemical Corporation, the group that the students are marching against. So we walk over to another building and we encounter another virtual character. And this Dow recruiter is someone that we can have a conversation with and ask questions of. The player here navigates a set of virtual dialogue where they can ask questions and new options are unlocked depending on what they've asked in the past or what items they have on their inventory. So we have this dynamic conversation with this Dow person. Now, GPS was used to trigger these things, but we also can use these barcode looking things called QR codes to trigger or to link to a virtual character. So if you want to play ARIS yourself, you don't have to come to Madison for everything. You can go out to our website at arisgames.org and look under the Dow Day codes, and you'll be able to scan one of these things yourself to get an experience of what it looks like. So let's talk a little bit further in the game. One of the things that we've done is taken video clips that existed from first source historical material, and we've superimposed them on the current scene. So when students get to this top of the hill here at Bascom Hill, we have some footage from that exact camera angle that augments or lays over the history on top of the current reality. And in this case, we can see a march taking place, marching right up towards the student, which is one of these really profound experiences, a new way to envision the history of what's taken place on this hill. We do the same thing here in front of the clock tower building, where we superimpose, we augment reality with a scene here from a newspaper footage, seeing how the protest is starting to gather. In Dow and the other ARIS games, we also have a virtual inventory of items. So the player is collecting things, artifacts along the way, such as the protest flyers or video clips. And they can actually use these objects and exchange them with other players. We leverage the inventory quite a bit in a different game. It's a scavenger hunt game. And here we use the same space, this spot on Library Mall here in the middle of UW campus, but we change the story. It's a different layer of what's taken place. This one in 1850. And the story here is that we want to have the players visit a number of virtual mines where they're going to get things like carbon and iron, and they're going to learn about smelting these things, all for the goal to make some money so they can make their way out west. When they switch to the map screen here, we see that there's these copper and bronze and tin and carbon mines that are all over campus, virtually placed using GPS. And when they walk to one of those places, they can pick up one piece of ore from it, and you can see it has a certain value. And they pick it up, which means it goes into their inventory. And then they can head over to the smelting shop. And at this place, they can interact with a virtual character that's designed to exchange materials one for another. So if they give the smelter refined, or if they give them carbon and iron ore, they'll get refined iron, for example. And now they're building up the value of the things that they've collected. Practically, it's a lot of fun because the actual objects have limited quantities, so you've got to get to these places fast. But it also starts to teach of the basic interactions of smelting metals. Now, one thing that we know is going to be really important moving forward with mobile media is this notion of citizen journalism, and not only mobile, but locative data collection, meaning data that's collected in space. So we've put some tools into ARIS that allow you to quickly design these kinds of things as well. There's a camera screen where we can take photos and videos, and there's an audio recorder where we can record audio samples. And both of these then can be marked up with a title and a description, and they're stored within the player's inventory, or they can be dropped onto a map and exchanged with other players. We also aggregate all this information up using Google's KML file format, which means all of these different mobile data collected points can be put back on a map. And we can imagine lots of experiences where students are sent out into the field to gather data or video or audio about different things that are taking place within their neighborhood or within a scientific context, and then brought back to class to debrief those collected data points and to make meaning out of them. So how do you actually make something in ARIS? Well, right now we're working on an alpha version of the editor, and we have some people participating in our program, trying it out and helping us make it better. It's stable and it's really useful, but it's not complete. There's still a number of things that we want to add into the editing environment, including the simulated dialogue that I talked about, and more to do with editing and creating those quest screens. But you can make a lot of cool stuff with it right now. So this is what it looks like. It's a Flash-based authoring environment where objects can be created. And we've really got only three kinds. They can create virtual characters, virtual items, or media that's embedded on a map. And then those can be dragged out to the map, and some properties can be set around it with how it releases to the player, whether QR codes are used, or whether or not there's requirements so that one thing needs to be done before another thing is active. We've been using Google's groups function here to organize and to gather a community of people that are actually working on the ARIS Alpha editor. And if you'd like to be part of this thing, we invite you to come out to our website and apply to be part and get access to these tools. The website is arisgames.org. That's ARISGAMES.org, and there you'll be able to request access to the alpha editor, as well as learn of some of the stories that we've created that can be played right now. And you can download this thing right now by searching for ARIS on the App Store, and there's links to that on the website as well. So that's just a quick preview of what ARIS is up to. We're expecting to have a full release of the full editor and lots of games being made come January. But right now we have about 60 people that are authoring a number of experiences all over in the world with it. Well, thanks a lot for taking the moment to hear about our project, ARIS, and make sure to go visit the website.